Flooding is a growing problem in the UK and all over the world. It's happening for two main reasons. First of all, weather patterns are changing, and that means that rainfall events are happening more frequently, and when they do, they're happening more intensely and they're happening for longer periods of time. In addition to that, we're paving over green land, and that means that instead of infiltrating down into the ground at source, the water hits a hard surface and rushes off into our already overburdened sewers in high volumes at high speed. Sustainable drainage systems, or SuDS as they're referred to, mimic natural filtration processes to stop that runoff flooding and gushing into overburdened sewers at the high rates that they do at the moment. One of the easiest ways of employing a SuDS technique is to employ permeable paving. This looks like a standard paved area which can be trafficked with people or cars, but the units, the paving units, have been specially engineered so that the water flows down between the gaps and into a specially prepared subbase. Once the water is stored in the subbase, it can then soak down into the ground quite naturally, or alternatively, it can be fed into a sewer or a watercourse at a controlled rate. At Marshalls, we know an awful lot about permeable paving. Our Priora product is the best-selling concrete block permeable paving system in the UK. Over the past 10 years, we've sold enough Priora to cover well over 500 Premiership football pitches. Growing awareness, increased flooding, and pending legislation in the form of the Flood and Water Management Act and the National SuDS standards are all going to ensure that interest in permeable paving and SuDS in general is only going to increase over the coming years. The first thing that you'll notice is the size of the units. The flags that make up this range are bigger than any Priora option that we've made before. This is in response to landscapers, designers, architects, specifiers across the board who've been telling us that they want larger plan sizes now to use in pedestrian outdoor spaces, city plazas, town squares and walkways. You'll also notice the interlocking nibs across the entire surface. These are the patented, unique Priora nibs that we've used on all of our Priora units to date. And that's the Priora nib that maximises rotational interlock and reduces pressure on the subbase by up to 40%. The flags come in three sizes: 200 by 400 millimeters, 400 by 400 millimeters, and 600 by 400 millimeters. You can see on this surface that they've been laid in a completely random course pattern. There's no specific laying course or no particular pattern. Having said that, you'll also see that every single nib interlocks perfectly with its neighbour. That's a real advantage with Conservation Priora. Obviously it's great for installers because it means that as they're putting the flags down, they don't need to think about the order that they lay them in. It's really easy to go down. But more importantly, it's great news for designers as well. It means that they can be really creative with their options, whether they're using random course options or whether they're using single size laying patterns. They can be sure that whatever design they can come up with, whenever the flags go down, the nibs will interlock, and that's what gives the surface that additional stability. We've launched the product in three complementary colours: silver grey, charcoal and a brand new graphite option. The finish is our very popular conservation finish. But finally, and most importantly, how does it perform hydraulically? How does it deal with the water that flows off? Obviously, because of the larger sizes, there are fewer voids, fewer gaps on the surface for the water to fall through than there are on a standard Priora pavement. To put some numbers behind that, on a standard Priora pavement, the water falls through at a rate of about 18,000 litres per second per hectare. If we were to take a surface that's made up of just the large Conservation Priora flags, which is the least permeable surface available, that'd let the water flow through at a rate of about 6,000 litres per second per hectare. So it's only a third as permeable as standard Priora. To put that into context though, a standard UK rainfall event provides runoff at a rate of about 180 litres per second per hectare. So in short, it's not as permeable as standard Priora blocks, but it's certainly more than permeable enough to cope with any average standard UK rainfall event. One thing we do have to mention though, to maintain that level of permeability, there is a small amount of maintenance required, just as on any permeable pavement. All you need to do is brush or hoover the joints once or twice a year to make sure any dust or sand or debris doesn't clog the joints up. It's not a major job, and it's certainly not as onerous as rodding and cleaning out a point drainage system, for example. We also have to mention the system, what goes underneath the block. Because in any permeable system, what goes underneath the surface is as important as the surface itself. We've developed a suite of products which provide the ideal subbase for whatever requirements you might need. The 6mm is used for jointing and the laying course. The 20mm is used for the subbase and the capping layer if required. Both of these have been specially specified to provide maximum internal angle of friction, so they interlock really well and provide maximum stability in the subbase, but they've also got the highest void ratio available. They've got a void ratio of about 40%, whereas the British standard only requires about 30%. That means that they store loads of water in the gaps between each element. Then we've got the grid, which sits at the bottom of the subbase, confining each element of the aggregate and stabilising the subbase, which means that in some circumstances we can drive out even more depth. Finally, we've got the M380 tanking membrane. That's used to tank Type C or non-infiltration pavements, where we need to keep the water within the subbase and channel it off at a controlled rate. All of these different elements, used in conjunction with our designs and our Priora surfacing options, create a system, and that system is protected by an additional Priora warranty. Priora warranty goes further than the standard Marshall's warranty to give our customers the confidence they need that their permeable system is going to perform hydraulically and structurally for years to come.